Hey everyone, my name is Sean and today I'm doing a tier list for Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel Season 4. Before we begin, I want to start by saying that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a diverse game with many different decks. Those which have made this list are based on tournament results recorded over the last 2 months. However, there are many powerful strategies yet to be popularized, so focus on what you enjoy playing and what keeps you coming back to the game more than anything else. If your deck is not on this list, it doesn't mean it's bad. I'm not ragging on it or anything. I'm just going by what's been seen by tournament results. So without further ado, before we get into anything else, if you are interested in seeing more breakdown of a meta-analysis, there will be links to videos I've made in the description. And also, if you want to see deck lists for some of the decks in this video, I've also got a really good video showing you what people played to get these successes. So feel free to check that out as well. So here's the tier list. I have 4 tiers. Tier 1, decks which are consistently viable, wide range of answers. They perform very well on a tournament level. They have several, if not many tournament wins. They're very good right now. Tier 2, again, another really powerful tier. Decks that are doing very well at tournaments, are winning many tournaments and topping tournaments, but maybe not as much as those in Tier 1. There's a bit of a gap between them. Tier 3, again, similar, are decks that have won tournaments and have done very well, but are, let's say, the most popular picks, or they are frequently topping, but they're not necessarily always winning the tournaments. And Tier 4 are also decks which maybe previously have seen success throughout the seasons so far, or they've done some noteworthy success where they've topped tournaments, but maybe necessarily they're not always winning, but they're still very powerful nonetheless. And then the final tier, as it says, they're cheapest for Konami. Please ban them and sort them out. Now, without further, just to say also, I am. If you do enjoy this video, please feel free to consider subscribing and leaving me a comment down below. My channel is almost at 5k subscribers, and that would be a massive milestone for me to hit. And also comments. I love comments. I love talking to people about Yu-Gi-Oh! It's why I do what I do. So whatever your thoughts are, leave it down below. I would love to read them. So we're going to start off this list by starting with this bottom tier, which is a tier that I think people who are new to Master Duel should be aware of that they might run into, but understand that these decks suck. They're not that good. And that is DD Dynamite and Cyberstein FTK. DD Dynamite and Cyberstein FTK, as I just said, they are FTK based decks. Well, DD Dynamite is kind of like a 2-turn kill, but whatever, who's being pedantic here? These decks are very cheap, but they're very easy to counter. The problem is that where you are focusing on countering all of these maybe other decks, you're not really putting in the counters for these decks, and so they're getting away with murder right now. DD Dynamite decks are very popular, in particular for climbing the ranks, so people can get to platinum faster. And I think I've even heard that there are scripts out there that can use robots to actually climb the ranks for you by playing DD Dynamite, so they're very cheap. Really, we've got to hope that Konami sorts them out and bans some of these key cards. They did it for the event, so hopefully they do it for standard. And there's a rumor going around right now that next month we will be seeing a new ban list for standard, so fingers crossed that will actually come into effect and we'll get rid of these cheap cards in the game, or these cheap combos. Next, I want to talk about a group of decks that were sole support or were newly released in the game last week, and that is going to be Despia, Speedroids, Stardust Synchron, and also Magikey. Now, I'm putting them at tier 4 just as a tentative kind of set, because right now they're very new to the game, and therefore based on Master Duel data, there's not a whole lot we have to go by them. But these decks are probably going to be very popular, particularly these 3, for the Master Duel Synchro Festival, and so popularity plays a huge factor into Yu-Gi-Oh! And so we might start seeing these decks being used in tournaments as well. Both the Speedroid and the Stardust Synchron support are very good, and they're very powerful decks. So I can fully see people picking these up, and so maybe in the future we'll see them climb the ranks. Magikey is kind of like a rogue favorite. Lots of people having fun with this deck, and it's very cheap as well, so that might also see a lot. But it's also a really good deck at making rank 4s or making level 8 synchros as well, so it could maybe do some stuff. I definitely want to point out Despia though. Despia are very good. They're very powerful, but right now in Master Duel they're not at their fullest of power. They've got a lot of their good starters in the game right now, but they haven't got all of their big boss monsters. But they will be released over time. So the spear will continue to get stronger and stronger over time, and I can see it doing really well in the future. In fact, we just had a YCS championship last weekend at YCS Charlotte, and the spear were crushing it. So the spear, very, very good, has a lot of promise, and if you want to invest in that, go for it. So we're going to start with the decks now that we do have data for, and the first one I want to talk about is Adamancipator. Adamancipator is fascinating to me, and personally I think it's a crime to put this deck at tier 3, but the tournament results speak for itself. On a tournament level, Adamancipator is not doing that well. However, I think what I've noticed with the trend of this game is that people are trying to choose decks that were really strong in the game in the OCG and the TCG that reflect the card pool release of Master Duel and what cards are available. To be a bit more specific, the Master Duel card pool is 10 months behind the TCG and is 12 months behind the OCG. And so people were looking at what was meta at that time, and they're picking up those decks to play and using Master Duel, and that's what's been popular. But Adamancipator is fascinating to me because Adamancipator was one of, if not the strongest deck of 2020, and then it got hit and nerfed by both the OCG and the TCG ban list, and so it dropped out of favor and became like a more rogue deck strategy. But Adamancipator in Master Duel is at full power. It has all the cards that were previously banned available to it. And so I think that people just really aren't noticing that this deck is flying under the radar and are not picking it up. However, with the Synchro Festival being tomorrow, there are lots of people who've been practicing with this deck. It makes some crazy boards, and it is very, very good at what it does. And so I fully expect to see Adamancipator rise up in the meta, perhaps being a tier 1 or even a tier 2 contender. But we'll find out in Season 5 whether this deck has managed to pick up speed or not. It should be a tier 4 deck, but based on its history and its performance in the past and how dominant this deck has been, I'm going to have to put it at tier 3, just because I know this deck could do even better than it is. Speaking of a deck that actually really surprised me, we next have Altergeist. Yeah, I didn't expect Altergeist to do anything in the Master Duel format personally, but this deck continues to shine and shine. It is by far not the most popular deck. You definitely don't see it around as much as it can, but it manages to win tournaments here and there. It manages to win a tournament in Season 2, and it managed to win a tournament in Season 3 as well. Maybe there's someone who's just really hardcore with this deck, that's very good at it, that continues to play it. And there is a good reason why. Altergeist is a very, very solid deck. It has a lot of good resources. It has non-targeted, it has targeted removal, but the ability to send cards to the graveyard. It has the ability to bounce cards off the field. It has negates for days. It has easy ways to make Hextia. It's a really, really good deck, and it's actually winning and seeing success in tournaments. So Altergeist is tier 3. Another deck that is equally surprising to me is Blackwings. Oh my god, someone actually won a tournament with Blackwings. I was so shocked, and it wasn't an insignificant tournament either. It was actually, 64 players? So it was really, really good. Blackwings, old school archetype, old school synchro archetype, character legacy archetype, and they have access to all the synchros that have been released over the years, and so using them with more and more resources has been very, very beneficial. I think Blackwings stand to get even stronger now with the synchros added last week, like Baron de Fleur and Summit Wolfriat, that synchro card as well. So it's a very good deck, and it actually managed to win a tournament. If we look at the TCG and OCG performance, I'm not expecting it to do more than what it is. It might have been a really surprise win that this was able to steal, but hey, good job to anyone that's playing Blackwings and is seeing success with it. Next on the list we're seeing is Cyber Dragon, and that's going to be a tier 4 strategy. Cyber Dragon was very popular at the start of Master Duel, was topping tournaments here and there in Season 2, but hasn't really done much in Season 3. So it can do well, but now that the meta has begun to stabilize a little bit more, it has definitely been pushed aside and crept away. But it is still a nostalgia-based strategy. It's a legacy deck, and therefore people will always be playing Cyber Dragons, and people maybe will keep this in their back pocket. There are cards in Cyber Dragons that are very, very powerful still. So yeah, it's an okay strategy, but it's just not like a top tier strategy in my opinion. Another deck that's doing really well is Dangers. Dangers have so many variants. There's Danger Dark World, there's Grand Mardu Danger, or the most successful version of Dangers right now is Danger Seeker. Again, this is because of another card that has been limited on the Forbidden Unlimited list for a while, but it can be playable at free in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel version, and that is Seeker's Light. Seeker's Light is a spell card that lets you draw 2, but you cannot use it if you have other trap cards or spell cards in your graveyard, I think, if that's how it is. Either way, it makes it so that you can only play 3 copies of Seeker's Light in your deck and no other spell and trap cards. But that works really well with a Danger deck because Dangers can do their own drawing and they have a wide toolbox of effects that they can use in order to access very easily and break your opponent's board. They're very powerful going second. They play lots of level 8 monsters. They've received recent support with Surge de Fleur, being a card released last week in the Speed Void set. And yeah, they're just doing very, very well. They have a great rank 8 toolbox, being able to make monsters like Hope Harbinger, Dingirsu, Draglubion, Galaxy Ciphers, the Sevens Ins. They could make a lot of cards out of the extra deck quite easily. And so Dangers are doing well, and they actually managed to win a tournament as well. They're very, very successful. The only downside I would say to Dangers is, oh my god, is this deck expensive in Master Duel. I haven't seen any deck with as many ultra rares as this one deck. So if you're gonna go for this deck, you got to really, really commit. Have a lot of gems lying around or a lot of ultra rare crafting points to build it. Next we have Dinosaurs, and Dinosaurs tier 4, a little bit under Cyber Dragons, but tier 4 nonetheless. Cyber Dinosaurs are a very powerful going second strategy. They're very good at breaking boards. They're very good at summoning really good boss monsters like Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. They haven't really seen a lot of success in tournaments, and I think that's because of the best of one format, because they can't really tailor their deck to always going second, which is what they like to do. Going first, Cyber Dragons, Dinosaurs don't really make a crazy board, so when it's a die roll format where you don't really have a control over going first or second, when they go first, they don't really do a whole lot. And if they don't survive to turn 3, then, you know, they didn't survive to turn 3. But going second, they're very, very good. Conductor Tyranno, Dinorosa Pancratops, Overtex is all really good. They've got amazing starters. They're more powerful in Master Duel than they were in the TCG and OCG because of the ban list. They have access to a great array of cards such as 3 copies of True King Lithosargum, being the Earth True King monster that starts their combos. So they're really, really good. Just not seeing a lot of play in tournaments since Season 2. They're kind of dropping off. Dragonmaids managed to also win a tournament, putting them dead in the middle of season of Tier 3. Again, another really great, successful archetype. They have a really great set of cards, such as Tidying. They have great boss monsters, such as House Dragonmaid, Chamber Dragonmaid, and Shiu, however you want to pronounce it. They're a good fusion deck. They have the ability to recycle their cards very easily and get the things like their fusion spell back from the graveyard. And they're very annoying to deal with. They're so frustrating to deal with in the grind game as well. Once they get going and they start their loops, they're very annoying to deal with. A very powerful deck, and it's great to see this deck picking up speed and people really playing this deck because when they were first released, they weren't really that popular and they were mostly used as like a sub-engine in Dragon Link, but now they're doing really, really well. So good job to those who are playing Dragonmaids out there. Drytron, tier 1, if not the best deck in the game. Drytron is winning the most amount of tournaments. It is seeing the most success. It is dominating in ranked. It is, when it isn't winning tournaments, it's there at second or third or fourth or fifth or sixth or seventh or eighth place. No matter what tournament you go to, you are seeing a Drytron unless it's a limited format such as the Synchro Festival or other festivals. It's a really powerful deck. It's great going first. It's great going second. It counters so much of the meta. Herald of Ultimateness is a pain. You've got ways to refill their hand with many resources such as Eva and Ben 10 particularly can search out resources for them. They have things like Herald of Purple Light and Herald of Orange Light that can negate trap decks and effect monsters respectively. They're very, very annoying to deal with, and if you don't stop them almost within like the first couple of plays, then they pretty much are guaranteed a win. They're very, very good and very, very frustrating. But there may be still hope for those who don't like Drytron. Drytron is not that popular anymore in the TCG and the OCG. In fact, in the last ban list in the TCG, it saw some of the key cards like Eva banned outright. So in the future, this deck might not always be so dominant. And like I said, there's rumors that there will be a ban list next month, so maybe we'll see some changes. But Drytron right now are completely dominating the game. They're not the only tier 1 deck though. Eldlich is also a tier 1 deck, and Eldlich is absolutely crushing it right now. What's crazy about Eldlich is the amount of different ways you can play this deck. You can play Eldlich Invoked, Eldlich Dogmatica, Eldlich Zombie, Eldlich 60 card with the grass is greener. But the most popular way to play Eldlich with hand traps even works. The most popular way to play it is as a control deck using lots and lots of trap cards and floodgates like Skilled Rain at 3, Goals and Matches working well, Rivalry of the Warlords, and then negation cards as well to protect those floodgates. It's a very good deck going first or second. It has the ability to banish cards from the graveyard in order to get more resources out of the deck. It doesn't lose to a lot of the common counters for the format like Maxi or Ash. But they don't really do anything to an Eldlich deck, so it's very, very powerful. And these two decks are very, very polarizing because the way you would counter Drytron doesn't necessarily work against Eldlich and vice versa. So it makes it very difficult for many other decks to kind of build a way to counter the meta because we don't know what we're going to face against. And so without a side deck, it's kind of like a luck of the draw chance. Do you go heavy to counter Eldlich, or do you go heavy and counter Drytron? I think most people are choosing Drytron, but Eldlich is still around and it's very, very dangerous. Endymion, another deck that was around in season 2. Didn't really do a whole lot last month, but it managed to top tournaments here and there. It's a good pendulum strategy, very, very powerful going first. Can set up a board of multiple negates with things like Mighty Master of Magic being a spell and trap negate, and Mythical Beast Jackal King. He has good amount of cards in the extra deck. He has access to Heavy Metal Foes Electromite again, which is a card that is banned in the TCG unless it came back, and I'm not aware of it. Which makes it, which is a really good extender for the deck, and then it has the ability to set up its plays a lot easier. Pendulum decks, however, have really struggled to keep up in the current format because of the changes to Master Rule 5. The Master Rule 5 changes benefited Fusion, XZs, and Synchro-based decks, but did nothing to really help Pendulums, and so Pendulums still have to pay to link zones like they were in Master Rule 4, and so it's a little bit difficult for Pendulum decks to keep up, but Endymion is still a very, very good deck. I think its biggest weakness is going second. Endymion, for it to access a lot of its powerful effects, has to go first and build their board, and it can build to go second, but it prefers to go first, but it can't build to go second and first at the same time, if that makes sense. It can only really do one or the other, so it has some really poor matchups sometimes when it has to go second. But it's still a very good deck. It's one of my favorite decks, so give it a go if you want to learn a really good Pendulum deck. Moving on to Heroes. Heroes have basically done nothing. Heroes, I mean, I'll put that at the bottom. The only thing I would say about Heroes is that they're very, very popular right now because they're a nostalgia deck. I do see them a lot in online ranked, but they haven't really entered the tournament scene at all. That being said, in the future, when we have things like Destiny Hero, Phoenix Enforcer, a engine that is run in pretty much every single deck right now, but also is even more run in Heroes, this deck might become more popular over time. But for the time being, this deck isn't really doing too much. So it's really at the bottom of tier 4, but it's still a good deck. Speaking of decks that are really good decks, Ignisters. Ignisters have really surprised me with how successful they've been in the Master Duel format. They are amazing. They have a great amount of one-card starters. The new cards available to them, such as the Link 1 Ignister, Dark Ignister, is very, very good, and they have an amazing amount of good spell cards that can start as well. What's great about Ignisters is their ability to play through disruption. So they can play through an Ash, or they can play through a Nibiru, kind of in a way quite easily because they can answer those situations natively, and then they can use things like Call by the Grave or Cross Out Designator to hit those cards that they really don't want to deal with, like Max C. They're very good going first, they're decent going second, and once you get their combos going, the amount of resources this deck is able to generate is very, very shocking. But overall, Ignisters are very, very good, And where they started off like down here in Master Duel, they have just climbed up the ranks over time. And this is why I'm saying a deck might not be really popular to begin with, but once people start paying attention to it, it has the ability to climb up. And Ignisters is that success story, absolutely. Tier 2. Tri-Brigade Lyrilusc. Tri-Brigade Lyrilusc, the first version of our Tri-Brigade decks. There are multiple ways to play Tri-Brigade, but Tri-Brigade Lyrilusc I've separated from the other ones because Tri-Brigade Lyrilusc is very much its own beast. It definitely does a lot of things different to other Tri-Brigade decks, being able to make boards not only with Tri-Brigade monsters, but also things like the F-Zero Utopic Dragon monster. You have the Simorgh Link, which can then summon that Barrier Statue of the Winds. The Lyrilusc monsters, the XE monsters themselves, are great boss monsters, and they have an amazing search engine as well, by being able to get so many level 1 monsters to the field to be used for Link or XE summon. They're very, very good. They're not the most popular way to play Tri-Brigade. Most players are playing it in a different way, but where this deck does come about, it does very, very well. So it's definitely a tier 2 strategy overall. Magical Musketeers. Magical Musketeers managed to top a tournament. That was really cool to see. It was great to see Magical Musketeers do that. They haven't won any tournaments, but someone was very successful with them. So they've entered here at tier 4. I doubt they will climb up higher in the ranks, as they are a good rogue pick, but they aren't necessarily the most strongest of decks, but they're really, really fun as well. If you don't know about Magical Musketeers, they are a fiend-based light fiend archetype, light fiend-based archetype that work in columns. And anytime a spell or trap card is activated in a column that a magical musket monster is in, they get more resources, such as being able to special summon from the deck, or add cards to their hand, or draw, or get cards at the grave. So they kind of go plus every time you play a card, and they go even more plus every time your opponent plays a card. They're kind of like reverse Mech Knights in a way, if that helps to illustrate what they do. They're very good at OTKing, being able to make an amazing amount of Link 4s. They can swarm the build with things like Ties of the Brethren quite easily. And yeah, it's cool to see people do Magical Muskets. And being able to top a tournament is very, very promising for that deck. So good job to them. Numeron, what do I say about Numeron? Numeron is tier 4, lower than Dinosaurs, but higher than Heroes. Numeron was really popular in Season 2, especially because of the XE's Festival, and because a lot of their cards are quite cheap, but they're not doing anything on a tournament scene anymore. They're not the hardest deck to kind of beat, but they can OTK quite quickly. They do have some things going for them though. They do have the ability to obviously OTK. They have their big boss monster that is able to burn you for damage. And then they also have the ability to make the Link 5 monster, I can't remember her name, but Underworld Link 5 monster, that can use 4 monsters on your field and 1 monster on your opponent's field to contact Link away and break your board that way as well. They're not great, but they're still really popular, and they're very, very easy to play, so I think a lot of people are giving them a go. But yeah, well done to Numeron, and hopefully they'll see more success in the future. Next we have Pendulum Magician, and that is going to go right next to Endymion, performing exactly the same. Where Endymion was being successful in Season 2, Pendulum Magician is now being more successful in Season 3, but they're both very equal. They haven't managed to win a tournament, but they are able to top, and they're both very, very good Pendulum decks. Again, Pendulum Magician is seeing the benefit of the ban list, having more cards available to it than it normally would in the TCG and the OCG, having things like Electromite, multiple versions of Pendulum Cool, and other very, very powerful cards available to them. They can do really, really great boards, being able to Synchro Summon, XE Summon, Link Summon, and they can do a whole lot. They suffered from the same weaknesses as I described with Endymion. They struggle kind of going second, and this is a going first format, so everybody wants to go first. And they do need to access their extra deck really to be able to break boards without counting a couple of cards here or there. They're very, very much focused on being able to get to those summons in order to really make their plays. But they're still very good. They're topping, so they're doing very, very well. Phantom Knights, a deck that started at tier 3 but is now definitely a tier 2 deck. Very, very good strategy, very powerful level 3 base strategy. Has access to a great array of link monsters such as Rusty Bardish, can go into powerful rank 3 monsters such as Phantom Knights of Breaksword. It can also then rank up into bigger monsters such as the Dark Requiem Xyz Dragon. It's really, really good, and because so many of their cards float, their deck is very, very hard to stop once it gets going. They have climbed the popularity over the past season or so, so they're doing very, very well. Very much close to Ignisters in a way, where they keep on being a very, very good rogue pick for the meta. Prank Kids also similarly have done very well. Prank Kids are a very good fusion-based, link-based strategy that are able to get so many resources. And when they set up their board with Meow Meow in the grave and Butler on the board, allowing it to do double Raigeki, it's a very, very fun deck. They were very popular at the start of Season 2. They were winning quite a few tournaments there, and then they started to drop off over time. I think as the format has started to take shape a bit more, maybe they don't have good matchups all the time, but they're still doing very, very well. And the fact that this is a deck that has a lot of one-card engines or available to them makes it a very, very powerful contender for the time being. So Prank Kids are solid and they're doing very well at tier 2. Salamangreat, tier 4, but the top of tier 4. Salamangreat are remarkable. They're doing great in terms of being able to top tournaments, and I think a lot of people really like Salamangreats as they were a very popular deck in Master Rule 4. They have access to a lot of resources, including multiple copies of Salamangreat Circle and also multiple copies of other really good Salamangreat cards like Mirage Salio available to them. They can link climb easily into bigger boss monsters such as their Link 4 and also into Access Code Talker. They can OTK with Transcode Talker. They can be mixed in with other engines as well. They're just overall a very, very good archetype. On the tournament scene, they haven't done a whole lot. They managed to top a tournament in Season 3, so hopefully they continue to see success in the future. But Salamangreats are doing really, really well. Shaddolls, oh wow, Shaddolls. Yep, Shaddolls, Phantom Knights and Ignisters, all very similar. Started around tier 3, maybe tier 4, and have just continue to climb. And I will put Shaddolls at the top of tier 2, in fact. Shaddolls are a very good rogue pick for the meta. They counter many decks that like to special summon very well. When they go first, they can set up a window protected by back row in order to stop your opponent from special summoning too much. Going second, they have multiple copies of Construct that can send more cards to the graveyard, and when she attacks, she breaks special summon monsters. They have access to Schism, being able to do plays during their opponent's turn. They can use in the Invoke engine to access other Invoke monsters such as Invoke Mechaba to provide the negates the deck needs. Most people are playing this as a 60 card deck version with the grass is greener as well, which allows you to just chuck a whole load of Shaddoll monsters into the graveyard, trigger their effects, and then just go plus. So it's a very, very good deck. And then of course, every time you get rid of these monsters and they leave the field, they get back their spell and trap cards and add them back to their hand, meaning they're very annoying to deal with. Shaddolls are thriving right now. They're doing really, really well. Sky Strikers, I feel like it's a crime to put them so low because of their history, but Sky Strikers are definitely a tier 4 deck, and they're about performing as well as Cyber Dragons are. I think they will continue. I think they will raise in popularity because they are a beloved archetype, and they were definitely the most dominant deck of Master Rule 4. But right now, Sky Strikers are they haven't won a tournament, and they've only topped a tournament here or there, and they haven't really done that many tournaments either. They're not really around too much. They're more played in online ranked. I see them quite a bit, and I think a lot of people will continue to experiment with Sky Strikers. I've seen a lot of people also use the engine, doing double engage, a Hornet drone, and maybe a Widow Anchor as an engine as a starter, using them to kind of bait out things like Ash Blossoms or Maxis so they can counter and negate it. And yeah, they're really solid. They aren't at full power as they used to be, but also the format is very combo heavy, and they're not as good as breaking balls as they once were. a lot of their cards that they normally would use aren't as effective against many decks as they would be in the past. So Sky Strikers are solid. I love Sky Strikers. I wish they were doing better, but right now they're still kind of just here and there, not really dominating the meta at all. Not like they used to. They used to be the best deck in the game. Spyral, another deck that was one of the best decks in the game and was like the best deck of 2017. Very, very good deck. And another deck again that I think is flying under the radar. Spyral is at full power in this game, I believe. I'm pretty sure it has access to Quick Fix, it has access to Spyral Master Plan, it has access to everything, and it's a very good combo deck. But this deck was mostly popular in 2019, and then it got hit by the ban list, and some of the cards got nerfed, particularly before Master Rule 4.5 or 5 came around, and then Konami nerfed it deliberately so that other decks will have the chance to shine. And then Eldlich followed through, and Eldlich became dominant, and Adamancipator followed through after that and became dominant. So Spyral kind of died around then. But Spyral in Master Duel is a different story. It has access to a lot of its cards, and it's very, very powerful. It's a great deck overall, and I want to see it do more. It did manage to win one tournament, so good job to them, and it's topping as well. So Spyral is very, very good. Subterror. Subterror is tier 4, and it's going to be just under Numeron. Again, another deck which saw some success in Season 2, managed to top here and there, but hasn't really had a tournament presence since then. It's a good deck, and it's a good rogue pick for the format if you like more control-based decks. What I love about Subterror is his ability to ignore so many hand traps that are popular, like Ash Blossom and Maxi. Well, he doesn't really ignore Ash Blossom, but he can play through it. Maxi doesn't affect it whatsoever because it doesn't really special summon. It's mostly back row focused, and as long as it can have a negate like Subterror Phoenix available to it, hopefully it can play through things like Lightning Storms and Harpy Feather Duster, and once it gets going, it's a very, very good back row deck. But it hasn't really won a tournament or anything like that, so it remains at a tier 4 strategy. Another deck I'm going to add to the list is the Dark Magicians. Again, like Heroes, where's Heroes? This is another deck which hasn't really done anything on a tournament sense, but is very, very popular because it's the Dark Magician. And so if you're playing online ranked, you're going to see this deck around because people love Dark Magician. And it's a very good deck. What's great about Dark Magician is that you can play with things like free skill drains to really shut down a lot of decks, and it can be very annoying to deal with. And the annoying thing about Dark Magician is that if you have to choose between, say, destroying skill drain or getting rid of Dark Magic Circle, it can be really, really hard to do, as both of those cards are both as annoying as each other. Where there are forms of mass removal in the game, so it can catch a lot of people off guard that aren't playing things like Lightning Storms in their deck, so that's always beneficial to them. But Dark Magician is always going to be a popular deck, but it hasn't really seen anything on a tournament level, so it's at tier 4 for the time being. Thunder Dragons. Thunder Dragons are tier 4, and Thunder Dragons were doing really well in Season 2, but kind of have been dropped throughout Season 3 and after that. Thunder Dragons are great because at the moment they have access to one of their banned cards, Colossus, at least at 1. And Colossus going first is very, very powerful. It's a Floodgate style card that kind of does draw a lot bird on your opponent, meaning that they can't add cards from their deck to their hand, and a lot of decks want to search that way. However, Colossus is nowhere near the threat it used to be, and there are many ways to negate its effect and destroy it and get it off the field that are currently in the game. And so after that, the deck doesn't do a whole lot. Titan's pretty good. It can do a lot of damage. It's a 3k beat, 3,300k beater, I believe. And so it can also pop your opponent's field. So it's pretty good. What we saw with Thunder Dragon was that at the start of Season 2, Prank Kids was like the best deck and was the most popular deck. And then when Prank Kids started to die, Thunder Dragon began to enter the meta. But then since that has happened and gone and passed, it's kind of dropped down. And where Prank Kids have continued to see success and popularity, Thunder Dragons have kind of dropped down. And I think it's just because it's kind of like a combo deck that doesn't really set up a whole load of negates as most boards do. I think if it had more extenders, then maybe it'll be more popular. But who knows what the future holds for this deck. Hopefully we still have access to Colossus in the future, as I want to see this deck continue to be playable rather than being completely dead or outright. A really fun deck that actually managed to top a tournament. In fact, I want to double check. Did it top a tournament or did it win a tournament? I can't tell right now. But I'm pretty sure it topped a tournament, and that was Toons. This happened in Season 2. Toons actually managed to top a tournament, which was really fun. It hasn't really done much since then, but hey, Toons managed to see tournament success, which really surprised me. So if you're a fan of Toons, maybe that's a deck you want to pick up. Not really much I can say about it. I don't really know too much about Toons, to be honest with you. But when I saw that they were topping a tournament, I was like, Toons in a tournament? Hey, why not? It's always good to see people having fun. So Toons get a little bit of a shout out here and a bit of credit. Tri-Brigade, Tier 1. Tri-Brigade can be played in, other than Lyrilusc, can be played in two different ways. You can either be playing Tri-Brigade Zoodiac, or you can be playing more pure version of Tri-Brigade using, say, Rescue Cat as your starter. Both are equally performing well, both are equally viable, although Zoodiac is actually losing popularity, and Tri-Brigade Pure is actually taking a bit more of the focus, because Rescue Cat is a great starter, particularly when you're going second. What's not to say about Tri-Brigade? If Drytron is the best combo deck of the format and Eldlich is the best control deck, Tri-Brigade is right there in the middle. It can be a heavy combo that can do things like Lyrilusc combos, or it can be a more controlling thing where it plays lots of hand traps to simplify the game state. But other than that, it's a very well balanced deck. It has a lot of synergy with a lot of cards like Forbidden Droplets. For when when Droplets send your monsters to the graveyard, they will then trigger their effects whilst also halving the attack of opponent's monsters and negating their effects, allowing you to break their board really easily. It can go second with things like Lightning Storm, but definitely prefers to go first. And there are many different ways to play Tri-Brigade, and people are trying all different forms of tech. For example, using things like Psyframe Gear Gamma to negate an opponent's effect and bait out interruption when they use their spell cards, such as Pot of Prosperity and Fire Formation Tenki. And then when that Gamma is on the field, they can then use it as resources to go into a level 8 Synchro, summoning things like Psyframe Gear Gamma, Psyframe Lord Gear Gamma, or Chaotic Ruler, Magic Ruler Dragon, if I've got that right, and then also Borrelode Savage Dragon. It's a very good deck, and it continues to be a solid deck overall. It's incredibly popular. People hate it. People hate the Bird Up deck, but hey, it's doing very well, and it's absolutely Tier 1. True Draco is my favorite deck. Again, another deck that actually managed to win tournaments in Season 2, but hasn't done a whole lot since then. I think True Draco is always just a fun rogue pick to pick. It doesn't special summon, and he has a load of floodgates. But I've said this before in the past, everything True Draco tries to do, Eldlich can kind of just do better and more reliably. But it's still a great deck. I still play this deck to this day. And it's always fun to see True Dracos around in the format, because it's always a good surprise pick for a lot of people. It absolutely destroys DD Dynamite FTK, so there's always that going for it. And things like the Monarch's Erupt are almost auto wins against a lot of decks. It's very good, very strong, and dropped off after Season 2, but it was able to win tournaments in Season 2, so it's still a very good deck at Tier 4. Next we have Virtual World. Virtual World is Tier 2, another deck that's seeing success and winning multiple tournaments. Started to not do as many as it did in Season 2, but in Season 3 it's still doing very well. And it's a very powerful Synchro-based strategy. I think when it comes to the Synchro Festival, it's going to be between this and Adamancipator to fight it out for dominance for that tournament. But yeah, what's to say about Virtual World? Virtual World is a great strategy that can put out great powerful monsters via their own archetype. They can go into a variety of synchros. They've just got things like Baron de Fleur added to them, so they're really good for that. And of course, they have they use XE monsters as well, being able to make powerful rank 3 monsters like Breaksword, or rank 6 monsters like Beatrice, or rank 9 monsters like the dreaded True King of All Calamities. It's a very powerful strategy right now and deserves its spot at Tier 2. Again, this is another deck that did drop off in the TCG after certain cards got limited for it, but it's still a very good deck overall and continues to see success around the world. And then last of all, we've got Pure Zoodiac. And Pure Zoodiac is going to be down here. Pure Zoodiac did manage to do well in Season 2, but after that, a lot of people kind of dropped Pure Zoodiac for Tri-Brigade. You do see people playing Tri-Brigade Zoodiac, although it's mainly really a Tri-Brigade deck with a small Zoodiac engine to get to Drytron, Trident, and to Zeus. But then Tri-Brigade is a... Tri-Brigade. Zoodiac is a very powerful deck. It's got a lot of one-card starters, but it doesn't have a lot of tricks under its hat. It can make F-Zero Utopic Dragon, which is good. It can make really easy access to Zeus, which is great. It can do Mega Clops, but I think a lot of people prefer to play Tri-Brigade than they do Pure Zoodiac. So I think that's where it's kind of relegated to be right now. I think it's going to continue to be a sub-engine in Tri-Brigade unless Tri-Brigade gets completely nerfed, and then things will change. And so, people, that brings us to our tier list. So, quick recap overall. We have at the bottom, not even going to talk about them. We have then Salamangreat, Magical Musketeers, Thunder Dragon, True Draco, Endymion, Pendulum Magician, Zoodiac, Cyber Dragon, Sky Striker, Dinosaurs, what's this called? Numeron, Subterror, Toons, Heroes, Dark Magician, and then we've got our brand new strategies that have yet to show their performance. We'll see how they do over the next format. And then at tier 3, we have Altergeist, Blackwing, Danger Seeker, Dragonmaid, Spyral, Adamancipator. At tier 2, we have Shaddoll, Phantom Knights, Ignister, Virtual World, Prank Kids, and then Lyrilusc. And then finally, we have Drytron, Eldlich, and Tri-Brigade. And so that is the tier list. The takeaway from this is that the current format of Master Duel is very, very diverse. There are so many different decks you can play and have fun with in this game. The format is not completely set. As trends continue to develop, they will also change where these decks are, and new decks will enter the format 100% guaranteed. So right now the game is in a very, very good state. I know a lot of people are complaining about the lack of changes at the moment to the ban list and how it hasn't really changed the format too much, but it's still very, very early days for this. And I know they're doing a season a month, but really you wouldn't see a ban list or anything kind of drastic change from Konami until at least 4 months apart, or even 3 months apart, maybe if you're lucky. So yeah, I think the game is in a very healthy state right now. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Like I said before, if you did, please feel free to subscribe. I'm almost at 5k, and I'll see you soon. Take care.